Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching us today. We are at Interrupt 2011 in Las Vegas, and on our program is Andy Gottlieb, who is the founder and CEO of Talari Networks. Andy, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So what's new at your company?
Oh, lots of things. Gartner named us a cool vendor just a couple months ago. We won Best of Show here at Interrupt. Things are really picking up.
That's great. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, we're a small startup. We hired a big expansion of our sales force last year when we raised another round of funding, and so WAN sales cycles take longer than data center LAN sales cycles have been, so it takes about this long. We've been getting out customer references and generating good press, and it kind of builds on itself.
So in terms of trends you've seen over the last couple of years, what's happening in the market?
Well, I mean, cloud obviously is what everyone's talking about. With my customers, I'm not sure how many are implementing it whole hog, at least in the the wide area network portion of their business, but they're definitely interested in a way that they can take their network and prepare for the future when the CIO or the application team says, hey, I want to move more seriously to the cloud. So that's been a boost for us, and to the extent that every year or two people need more bandwidth in their network, that's obviously a boost.
So what's the biggest pain you're solving for customers these days?
The biggest pain is bandwidth needs grow kind of along with Moore's Law, 40% a year with new application deployment, with richer media, video, etc. Budgets aren't growing at all, or if they grow 5% is a good year. And yet the telecom carriers still aren't bringing down their monthly costs anywhere close to that 40% level. Now they'll come down 5 or 10% any given year. One year they were at 15%, but 15% down year over year is a big jump for them. And so the economics aren't there. If you need more bandwidth, but costs aren't coming down with Moore's Law, what do? Well, the carriers do have this one part of their business where they charge you much less for your bandwidth, and that's the public internet. And that's where we come in. We allow customers to use the public internet to augment or replace their private expensive LANs and get a whole lot more bandwidth for less money without sacrificing reliability.
And does that seem like it's inevitable in terms of just the amount of bandwidth companies need is going to continue to increase, and the cost of using the internet in theory is going to stay low?
I mean, I've been in this business 25 years. We started Talari a few years ago. The gap between internet bandwidth and MPLS was large. I figured it would slowly shrink over time. It's actually only grown, and internet prices in the absolute sense are probably about flat now, but what changes, you get more and more bandwidth with public internet connections. You look at Fios, you look at DOCSIS 3, you look at VDSL. On the wired side, you look at LTE, 4G on the wireless side, and then you add in what's going on with co-location facilities, where at this point you can literally buy a gigabit Ethernet worth of internet bandwidth for $5 a megabit. So the price is already low. MPLS, they talk that 100x gap. The carriers aren't going to crash prices because it's just going to crash their margins and their revenue. And so the gap is there. Even if it does slow over time, it's never going to close enough that it's not going to make sense to, even if you're conservative, use a portion of your bandwidth, use those cheap internet bits, even if you want to keep a little bit of the really expensive MPLS.
So you basically are in a better position than you thought you would be then, right?
Well, I mean, we sort of saw the businesses coming to us, and cloud, of course, only helps it along. But over a 2 or 3 year period, everyone needs more bandwidth. So the question is, how do you do it? Well, you look at what's going on in computing with virtualization. People don't have to keep buying more servers now, but they're still buying more software. They're still buying more computing capacity. With server virtualization, they can manage it a lot more efficiently and more effectively. Well, we do something similar on the WAN side. I talk obviously about cutting costs and adding bandwidth. We actually let you use that bandwidth more efficiently as well, fairly similar to how server virtualization does. And so the combination means the next time I got to go get more bandwidth, I can do it in a far more cost-efficient way than just saying to my MPLS provider, hey, I want to double the bandwidth, will you give me a price break of 12% versus 10% last year?
Do you have a lot of questions about security from your potential customers?
Very few, mostly because the core security technology we use on the public internet is SSL VPNs. It's pretty much open SSL source code. It's pretty much the same technology people use to talk to their bank, HTTPS. So the really hardcore folks are the ones that wouldn't ever consider using the internet. They don't even use IPsec VPN backup. And so, those guys we don't get, but pretty much everyone else, for the last 3-4 years, security is not so much the concern. It really is the quality and reliability and predictability. And that's security used to be the first reason why people didn't use the public internet. It's largely been solved now, but the predictability and reliability is the key factor.
So other than winning the award here and getting named a cool vendor by Gartner, is there any other recent news that we should talk about?
Recent news, I mean, we introduced a T750 platform, kind of a mid-range one for kind of medium-sized enterprises. Our high-end platform scales, 500 megabits, 50, 100 plus locations. We found and then we had a low-end platform we can do small networks, 8 or 9. We found there's kind of a gap in the middle for the customer who's got 15, 20, 25 locations. And so this was a way to have a more cost-effective entry point without sacrificing future scalability.
And what's next for the company?
What's next for the company? Sort of more of the same in that sense. I mean, the business is pretty straightforward. You see what's going on in web optimization, cloud computing, people talk a lot, but really the answer is, how do I go and scale my network? How do I do it long term? In our case, it's mostly doing the blocking and tackling now of, nailing down the reference customers. We had a great customer reference from Snow Isle, for example, in January. That's driven us a lot of business. And it's kind of the classic thing, even early adopters, and to this day we still sell most early adopters, but on the WAN, even if you're an early adopter, it pays to be conservative. Riverbed did the same thing 6-7 years ago. You have to go sell the smaller networks before the medium-sized ones. And so that's kind of the place we're walking up. Now we are seeing a lot more interest from the much larger networks, kind of the retail, banks, the 7-Elevens, not 7-Eleven the company, but those kind of things.
Right.
Where before they wouldn't be as interested, now they're a whole lot more interested because they're trying to figure out how they can deploy next-gen applications, and they never paid that much for bandwidth anyway. And so if they were paying for 64K frame relay, it's a huge jump to go to MPLS. So we're seeing some interest there as well.
Oh, that's great. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming back.
Thanks.
See you soon.